the Canadian government of the day wanted to kill the Indian and the child. And they got the church to do it. That's simply put, that's what happened.
It's important to us as a commission to hear about your unique experience, but it's also extremely important to Canada.
Our job is about, really, it's about listening, learning, educating, preserving, and honoring. It's about writing the history of what happened in the schools in Canada as completely and thoroughly as we can, and the legacy of those schools.
And then we will put those stories and our findings and our research into a report that we will release to the world, specifically to Canada, and to tell Canada what it is that has been done, about the truth of what it is that they have done, so that they must in turn take responsibility.
I had this saying is I'd rather be part-time and living in res as a Dene than be a Canadian. Because when I die and I go to hell, I'll say, my name is Patrick Simon, I'm a Dene from Port Resolution. Okay, right on. Straight up. But I'd fear saying I was a Canadian. I'd put my head down, to be honest.
And then one year, everything changed. There was a plane that landed by the shore, and the governments were picking up kids. I looked back at my parents, I said, I don't want to go. I started crying, but I was grabbed by my arm and forced into the plane. When they closed the door, I was looking out the window. I could see my parents together. And there were other people. I want to go home. I want to be with my parents. But there is no way I could get back out.
When it was time for everybody to go home for the summer months, I would ask the nuns, can I go home too? Holy smoke, I get slapped. No, you're not going. Yeah, I go cry in a corner. 12 years I stayed in that damn place without leaving the yard.
They seemed to teach us that it was okay to do unacceptable things. They seem to influence us to accept unacceptable ways.
We were always in fear, and the nuns would not do anything. They would not come to our rescue. They had free rein to sexually violate us anywhere in the building.
So punishment became a norm for me. Scrubbing stairs with the toothbrush, being denied food, kneeling in the snow late into the night while the nun sits there in a blanket. We're in our pajamas. Hours of kneeling in the bitter cold, being hit by a hand, strap, or a wooden ruler. I have a scar on my head from that wooden ruler. I have perforated eardrums from the many hits of a hand to my ears. I have a burn on my arm because I wouldn't iron the way the nun had told me to iron. With a hot iron, she burned me. This was to teach me a lesson. And when my arm got infected, she said, "That's the devil in you."
You have to be perfect, and you know you're not perfect. You have to be perfect, but you know you're not perfect because you're told you're not perfect. You're told you're a second-class citizen and maybe a third-class citizen. Your language is no good. Your culture is the culture of the devil. And you know you're not perfect, but you got to act like you're perfect. Because if you didn't, you got the physical abuse.
Many times I wondered, couldn't they have done it differently? With kindness instead of treating us like, I would have to say, cattle. There was no kindness, no gentleness. We were away from our parents, and nobody comforted us.
When my father would discipline us, he would hurt us, and then he would let us line up and say, "Thank you. We learned something today." I never knew what we learned, but we did. I know where he got it from now.
I'm sitting in this room and there are none of my friends from my childhood here. I sit alone. I'm only 45 years old and the majority of my generation didn't make it here. We're not here. We didn't come back from the South. A lot of us died before 25 years old. Why? Because they took our hope away.
Some ask why. Why residential schools? Why the suffering? Why the trauma? Why? Because residential schools work. They knew the effects on a person or peoples. These schools were not by mistake. They were planned and systematically implemented. They were created to break the psyche of an individual. It destroys families, and it silently brings a nation down. We must remember who we are.
I want my identity back. I know who I am, and I'm proud of who I am. All I want is to have my identity back. I think this is what we're asking for. As a human being, I think we're entitled to have that.
What they've done to me in the past is done, and I can deal with it. I can leave it behind and move forward. Now I have my wife and my children to support me. And today is I think by talking to you today to tell my story, I truly believe this is my birthday today.
I'm going to say the most difficult parts for Inuit. That's why I went to school. I want to cry with them one more time. And I want to smile with them. Because son of a gun, we made it. Nobody couldn't take that away from us.